What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be an atypical video, but cutting straight to the chase. I'm going to be reviewing these two mice, Razer Viper Mini, Xtrfy M42, both symmetrical options, quick layout, both have mouse 1, mouse 2, and a DPI button, or at least seemingly so. This is a non-programmable color changing button on the Xtrfy M42, whereas this is a programmable DPI button on the Razer Viper Mini. Side buttons on both mice, two side buttons, and then nothing underneath for the Viper Mini, whereas there is a DPI or CPI changer on the Xtrfy M42, as well as a polling rate switcher. Those options can be customized in the software of the Viper Mini. Shape-wise, they're actually quite similar. Viper Mini comes in a little bit shorter than the Xtrfy M42. Both, at least with the stock shell, have humps more towards the middle of the mouse, but maybe slightly hinting towards the back. So I would just characterize this as middle back. Pretty good for fingertip hybrid with palm claw grip. So both suited to the same sort of person, also with similarities in size, suited to the same same or similar type of grip and similar hand size. Buttons, the Xtrfy M42 uses Omron 20 million to be exact, and then the Razer Viper Mini uses the Razer optical switches. This is kind of what they sound like. Xtrfy M42 and the Viper Mini. Nice firm click on both. In terms of click feel, I might just be preferring the Viper Minis just because it's a newer, more unique click feel. The Xtrfy M42, nothing too special here. Side buttons are pretty crispy on the M42, whereas not as crispy and quite a bit of pre-travel on the Viper Mini. I think I prefer the side buttons on the M42. DPI button, not really going to be usable. Don't really have a preference here. Except for the fact that functionality-wise, the Viper Mini has the advantage. Scroll wheel, pretty good on the Viper Mini, also very good on the Xtrfy M42. Probably more so on the M42, but I wouldn't necessarily say that the increase in volume on the Viper Mini is a bad thing. Sensor, 3359 in the Viper Mini, 3389 in the Xtrfy M42. Technically, the Xtrfy M42 wins this battle, but can't really tell a difference in terms of responsiveness. Only difference materially is that this only goes up to 8500 DPI, whereas this goes up to 16,000. Mass in grams, the Viper Mini comes in at about 61 grams with the cable. Xtrfy M42 comes in actually about the same. So materially, no real difference in terms of weight. They feel pretty much exactly the same. Weight balance is not really an issue. Yeah, I would say they both feel extremely lightweight in hand. Cable, neither of them are very good if we're being honest by 2020/2021 standards. Very stiff in terms of mobility. Also for the Viper Mini, probably the Viper Mini wins the flexibility test, but really not the best relative to offerings from like Endgame Gear, for example. In a bungee, haven't really had a problem. So I wouldn't really say that this is the biggest point I would make on a mouse. That would break the purchase. Feet, on the other side, both have similar designs, but this longer foot on the top and then longer foot on the bottom. Surface area wise, the Viper Mini seems to cover more because of how fat this bottom skate is. In terms of overall glide in general, I wouldn't really say there's a huge difference. I don't pick up a huge difference. I think both are pretty consistent and fast on my Zowie GTFX. And positioning in the market, referring to price, Xtrfy 42, as a big feature of it, comes with two shells. So this has a different shell in the back, which makes it feel more like a Zowie ZA12, ZA13. And then the shell that it comes with standardly feels a little bit more like the Viper Mini in a certain sense. So basically what I'm going for here is with the larger shell in the back, it just gives it a larger hand feel. Position in the market, I think the Viper Mini has the advantage here. $30 or less for a mouse like this versus $60 for bare minimum for this black copy. I don't really know where that $30 is going. Other than just possibly extra RGB and then maybe just customization, but honestly they suit very similar preferences. So I think the only reason why I would get the Xtrfy M42 over the Viper Mini here is if I'm super picky about key feel, if I really want to have Omron 20 millions, although I'm not sure if anyone has a strong preference towards that. or if I just wanted a smaller Zowie ZA12 or ZA13, this could be a decent option. In terms of, which one I aim better with, I can't really tell right now. So I think the best course of action would be to hop in game and start testing out and try to quantify a difference between the two, because noticeably I can't really tell any from the top of my head. So let's jump into like AimLab and Kovac. Probably just AimLab, actually, now that I'm thinking back on it. Do a few different scenarios and, compile those together, see what we find. So the three main scenarios that I tested in AimLab were grid shot, which is 3 targets, big blue targets appear on your screen. Once you shoot one, another one reappears. Try to hit as many as possible within 60 seconds without missing, or trying to limit misses to as best as you can. Really just judges overall mouse control. The second task I did was sphere track. You have a rather large blue ball that you just have to track over the course of 60 seconds. It can move both vertically and horizontally. Moves semi-slow, but really just tracks, not only tracking ability, but also smoothness over the course of it. And then the last one to get a little bit more precision in was 6 shot, 6 small blue targets. Show up in your screen. Once you hit one, another one reappears. Hit as many as you can within 60 seconds. These were the 3 main drills I did, and over the course of each one, I used each mouse 3 times, so I got 3 trials for each scenario per mouse. I used the back hump and the mid hump for the M42, although for percent differences, I only calculated them between the M42 mid hump with the Viper Mini, because loosely I felt more comfortable with the mid hump than the back hump. Diving into the results, the M42 with the middle hump scored the best in grid shot with a score of 90,328.67 on average. Viper Mini scored on average 88,861.33, and then with the back hump on the M42 I scored 90,054. This yields a percent difference between the mid-hump and the Viper Mini of 2%. On sphere track, I actually got my highest overall score ever with the M42 mid-hump, which is 116,135, which places me within the top 100 finishers, I believe, on the task. And I got an average of 111,612. The Viper Mini follows close behind on average with a score of 108,575.67. And then the M42 with the back hump trails the rest of the pack with 105,854. This yields the largest percent difference between the mid hump and the Viper Mini of 3%. And finally, with 6 shot, I scored the best with the M42 with the back hump. This is at least seemingly because I got used to the scenario more as I went along, but that led the pack with 91,658.67 on average. With the mid-hump, I scored 90,800.33 on average, and with the Viper Mini, 90,306.33 on average. This yields the smallest percent difference between the mid-hump and the Viper Mini, being 0.5%. A common theme that seems to rear its head throughout the course of these 3 scenarios is that despite no matter which scenario I choose, the M42 with the mid-hump seems to outperform my performance with the Viper Mini, which is interesting because in hand I seem to either be indifferent between the 2 shapes, or with even subtle preferences towards the Viper Mini when it comes to overall comfort. Unsurprisingly, I seem to score the worst with the back hump on the M42, which increases the overall hand size and feel, and leaves me feeling the least comfortable out of all of the shapes. So the question is, what is the verdict after this video is all said and done? I think first off, with price out of the question, for me the M42 is a safer choice, but the reality of it is that the M42 is $60 at the bare minimum, $70 if you want the retro colorway, and the Viper Mini is $30 or less. So is the M42 or this 3% maximum difference in performance worth double the price of the Viper Mini? Absolutely not. Especially with the argument that you would get used to the shape based on whichever mouse you main. On top of that, something that would make me want to main the Viper Mini over the M42 is software. More so on the casual side of things. If I want to program a macro to make my life easier in one of my casual games, That's only doable on the Viper Mini, so it makes it the better all-rounder for me. Also, I enjoy the hand feeling of no holes on the sides of the mouse, better than the circular holes on the M42. So personally, having no software on the M42 is a big deal breaker for me, and that would make manning this mouse, or the M42 specifically, a very difficult ask. So overall recommendation, I think the Viper Mini is suitable for almost all users, and even in my case where I prefer the shape of the Xtrfy M42 over the Viper Mini, it only yielded at most a 3% difference in the scenarios I just tested. I would only recommend the M42 for flexibility in terms of the shape, so if you don't know what you want. Overall aesthetics, if you want some customization there, as well as with the better RGB. And then you get a safer shape. The curvature on the sides is not as extreme as it is on the Viper Mini, so that can steer someone away, and if that can steer someone away, then so be it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If this was informative or entertaining, please feel free to leave a like and let me know in the comments section down below, and I'll be sure to focus on more videos like this in the future. But this was definitely a change of pace, so I appreciate you all watching. Peace out.